are part of the old Buncombe County Genealogical Society. You may be like me. When I first moved to the area, I had no idea what old Buncombe County was all about. Well, in this video, Nancy Manning, who has been a volunteer for the Old Buncombe County Genealogical Society for 27 years, walks us through the history of Old Buncombe County, some of the original families that populated Old Buncombe County, and then she also talks about the evolution of the smaller counties that grew out of Old Buncombe County. I think you'll find Nancy's presentation to be extremely educational. You'll learn a lot of history in it. I think it'll make you appreciate the Old Buncombe County Genealogical Society a little bit more. So if you like her presentation or you like what we're doing, hit the like button so you give us a little positive reinforcement. Otherwise, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the program today. What we're going to talk about is what is Old Buncombe, and there's a lot of confusion about this. So this is why we are doing this program. Buncombe County was established in 14th of January, 1792. There were two petitions issued, one by the people of Rutherford County and one by the people of Burke County, to petition the state legislature to form a new county. And one of the reasons was that the distance to the courthouses was so far, it was a problem for them to get to Morganton or Rutherfordton to register their deeds, to attend court, or to do everything else that involved business of the county. So the petition was signed. So when was Buncombe formed? The petitions were dated September 25th, 1790. They were from Burke and Rutherford counties. They were submitted to the General Assembly November 1790, and the bill was created to form the county. It had to be read 3 times in both the House and the Senate. And the final action to create the county was on 14th of January, 1792. Okay, what land was in Old Buncombe? So the western section of Burke and Rutherford County formed Buncombe County. And basically, the county line runs along the Continental Divide that divides the waters from the East Coast to the Mississippi. So in Buncombe County, almost all the water runs into the French Broad River or into the Tennessee River and goes north and west. So that is Buncombe County. The land extended west to what was called the Indian land, which was where the Cherokee were. The residents in this section of Burke and Rutherford that were living in this area, they had to travel approximately 78 to 80 miles from Burke to Burke County to Rutherfordton, or 60 to 70 miles to Rutherford County to Rutherfordton. As it is now, Asheville is 57 miles from Morganton and 55 miles from Rutherfordton. Now we have good roads now, but if you can imagine, to go to Rutherfordton, the people had to come up over Minehole Gap, go down through the area of Lake Lure to get to Rutherfordton. They had to go over the Swannanoa Gap and down through Old Fort to get to Morganton. It took 5 to 6 days to travel on this. The 1790 census from Burke and Rutherford was started on August the 2nd, 1790, and it continued for 9 months. The assistant U.S. Marshals were allowed that time length to reach every resident and do the census. They can be anyone that was a resident of the western sections of Burke and Rutherford County, which are the 11th and 12th companies of Burke County and the 13th, 14th companies of Rutherford County, are considered living in parts of what was Old Buncombe. They are eligible to be in as ancestors for first families. Okay, here is a copy of the 1790 census. This is the 11th company of Burke County, and it's a militia company. And the militia companies were a division that was made, it was a statewide division divided into groups that were there to protect the county and protect the people. The militia companies in 1777, the age of men to be in the militia were between 16 and 60. These militia companies were also called captains' companies. And the records for the militia muster rolls, which they had to do regularly, what exists now, are located in the state archives. We also, you will find in the census records, you find these companies. They're also the same as the Superior Court districts, which the militia companies were in districts. And the Superior Court districts are pretty much the same. So Burke County and Rutherford County were considered to be in Morgan District, and this was the militia district and also the county court, the Superior Court district. The Superior Courts in 1808 were, the district Superior Courts were dissolved in 1808, and each county ended up with its own Superior Court. But the militia companies existed until 1865. Okay, first official record of Buncombe County is the 1800 census, which was on August the 4th, 1800. It was conducted by the federal marshals or assistant marshals. They were to ask who was living in the household on that date. It took 9 months to do the census, so they always asked who was living in the household on August the 4th, 1800. It doesn't mean that the people answered that correctly. They might have told who was in the house at the time that the census taker showed up. There was times where a enumerator would not, the people would not be there. The enumerator would ask neighbors if they were neighbors. You've got to remember that the county had 5,090 square miles, and there were only 5,812 people. So they were very spread out. And if you mention someone that was living in the household after that date, they were not supposed to be counted. Right, the first Buncombe County Court was held on April 16th, 1792 at the home of Colonel William Davidson. His property was on what is now the Biltmore Estate on the east side of the east and south side of the Swananoa River. The men present that took oaths as justice of the peace were James Davidson, David Vance, William Whitson, William Davidson, James Alexander, James Britton, and Philip Hudenpyle. Now, these men were elected by the people that attended the court. So they had to post a bond, and then they took an oath of office. The duties of the justices of the peace was to preside over the county court. They were to act as magistrates or judges. They were in charge of handling the complete business, all the business of the county. Now, we have transcribed minutes of the Buncombe County Court of Police Questions. The first volume is from 1792 to 1796. We have almost all the county court minutes transcribed, except for a section from the 1830s to the 1850s, and they are in the process of being transcribed and indexed. Some of the things that were taken care of in the county court that include all business of the county, court cases, civil cases, and criminal, road work, where they appointed people to work on the road near where they lived. They appointed patrollers, people that rode around the county to make sure everything was safe. They had people would come in and registered strays. If you found a strayed animal, you took it to your home, you kept it, you registered it with the county, so if the person who the stray belonged to could know where to find it. They registered brands or marks so that all your livestock was able to have a brand so people would know who it belonged to. And there were quite a lot of other things that happened in the county that these county justices handled. All the other officers of the county, the sheriff, the entry taker, the coroner, the comptroller, the treasurer, were all elected offices and were elected by the members or the people of the county that were in the county, visiting in the county court. Okay, official court appointments. These of April 16, 1792, these people were elected to office and then they took an oath and posted a bond. But they're called appointments even though they were elected. The Justice of the Peace was Lambert Clayton and William Britton were appointed on April 16th. The sheriff was Joseph Huey. County clerk was David Vance. The entry officer or land claims was Thomas Davidson. The entry officer is the one that entered into a ledger the land that people were claiming. And when they made an entry, the entry officer would order a survey made, and the surveyor would go out and survey the land. They would bring the survey back to the entry taker. The entry taker would make a copy of the entry and take the survey, send it to the Secretary of State in Raleigh. The Secretary of State would work with the governor. They would grant the land, and then they would send the grant and the survey back to the county, to the entry taker, to give to the person that claimed the land, and then it would be entered in the registered deeds office as a land grant. People applying for land grants had to pay for their land. Usually in this time period, it was about 20 shillings per 100 acres that they paid for their land. The head surveyor was John Patton. He would get local people to be chain bearers and work with them to do the survey. The registrar was John Davidson. He would register the deeds in the registered deeds office. The ranger was John Dillard. He was one like a patrol that he went out and checked everything, checked on strays, checked on brands. His job was to cover the county and make sure that things were okay. The coroner was Edmund Sams. All right, what part of Buncombe was in Tennessee? This little map shows the parts of Buncombe, of Tennessee, that were part of the state of Franklin, which was originally part of North Carolina. Even though this area was not open for settlement, people were settled in this area before the Treaty of Hopewell in 1785, which opened the land up for settlement. Most of these people came down from Virginia through Wilkesboro, North Carolina, Wilkes County, and over into Tennessee. A lot of them then came back east into western North Carolina and into Buncombe County. There were land grants for Revolutionary veterans of North Carolina who were not in the Continental Army, but were militia people that got grants in Tennessee. which was, and then the federal government said that North Carolina could not do that, that only the federal government could give Revolutionary War grants. But there were a few grants actually granted for North Carolina people in Tennessee. In April 1784, North Carolina ceded the Western Territory to Congress, and then a few months later, they revoked it. The delegates from the North Carolina counties of Washington, Sullivan, Spencer, Hawkins, and Greene, they succeeded from the state of North Carolina in August of 1784 and formed the state of Franklin, which lasted until December 1788. And then in 1789, North Carolina ceded the land for a second time and final time to the federal government. Now, these counties, Washington and Sullivan and Greene and Cocke County, which became, in part that became Cocke County, do have records from this time period. Those records, there are some records in the state archives in North Carolina that were state records, but there are other records in these individual counties. So if you had someone that settled in these counties of Tennessee, you need to look at those original counties to see what records you might find. Here is a map of the original Buncombe County. And it shows, if you see how Buncombe was really big, and as people moved west, the counties broke off. And what we have is Haywood was the first county formed from Buncombe. It was formed in 1808, and its county seat is Waynesville. In 1828, Macon County was formed from Haywood, and its county seat is Franklin. In 1833, Yancey County was formed from both Buncombe and Burke. So the east half of Yancey County was still in Burke County, and the western part was in Buncombe. And Burnsville is the county seat of Yancey. In 1838, Henderson was formed out of Buncombe, and Hendersonville is the county seat. In 1839, Macon was formed, or out of Macon was formed Cherokee County, which is the furthest western county in the state, and its county seat is Murphy. 1851, Madison was formed out of Buncombe and Yancey. And one little thing, in the 1840s, a part of Yancey was added to from Buncombe. And then in 1851, that part of Yancey ended up back in Madison County. And Marshall is the county seat of Madison. In 1851, Jackson County was formed out of Haywood and Macon, and the county seat of Jackson is Sylva. 1855, we have Polk County. It was formed out of Henderson and Rutherford, and Columbus is that county seat. In the 1861, Cherokee was formed. Clay was formed out of Cherokee, and it's a very small, very southern county, not very well populated. In 1861, Transylvania was formed out of Jackson and Henderson, and Brevard's that county seat. 1871, Swain was formed out of Jackson and Macon. Bryson City is the county seat. And in 1872, Graham was formed out of Cherokee, and Robbinsville is the county seat. When you're searching these counties, the records do not move when a new county is formed. The records stay in the parent county. So if you're searching Macon County, as you go back, you have to go back to Haywood and then go back to Buncombe, because there can be records in those counties that are for people that are, say, in Macon County. So, was your ancestor in Old Buncombe? Let's see. Okay. Was your ancestor one of the first families of Old Buncombe? The qualifying answer can be proven to be in Buncombe from 1792 to December 31st, 1800. It can be on the 1800 census. They can be on the 1790 federal census of Burke County in the 11th and 12th district, or the 1790 Rutherford County census in the 13th or 14th district. If you find them in Buncombe County court records, 1792 to 1800, if they were a signer of petitions for formation of the Buncombe County. Also, if they're Native American and you can show they were living in Cherokee or on the Cherokee area, in the Cherokee area, they are eligible. Anyone that may have passed through the area of Buncombe County between 1785 and December 31st, 1800, if we have a record that they were here, they are eligible. So we have lots of ways that people can be eligible. All right, sources for Trixie. When you start, you have to work backwards for yourself to the person that you want as your qualifying ancestor. You can use birth, death, marriage records, census and court records, maps and deeds, wills, probate and estate records, church, cemetery, Bible records, military and tax records, newspapers, business employment records, city directories, institutional records. What you need to do to prove is you have to show a connection, a document that shows the connection between each generation. So you can start with yourself. If you have a birth certificate that shows your parents' name, that is the source you can use. Any record that shows both people, a census record that has parents and children, a deed that deeds where it says to my loving child, anything like that is what you can use as proof. Other sources, we have this primary sources. We also have secondary sources, which are things like letters that have been written, family histories, published books. As long as they're documented, you can use a published book for one step between two people. Other than that, you do have to have some type of document. Okay, we have 176 proven first family ancestors. Now, as I said earlier, there were 5,812 people on the 1800 census. So there are a minimum of 5,812 people that ancestors that people can join first families under. There is a surname list of the proven ancestors on the OBCGS website. If you go to the About Us section on the main page, you'll go down the page, you'll see First Families of Old Buncombe. If you follow the arrow on over, there is a list of proven ancestors. And there's a list of qualifying ancestors. Not all qualified ancestors have been enrolled as proven ancestors. We have some applications that were made many years ago when we started this program that they did not have complete documentation. So we are willing to help anyone that's trying to get into First Families and has proven all but maybe one step or two. We are more than willing to help. Our First Families Committee is willing to help you all find the proof for your ancestors. Ancestors with Cherokee lineage and enslaved ancestors, if you can prove they were in the county before December 31st, 1800, are eligible. We do have a record in the court minutes where a slave was set free due to meritorious service to his owner, and he was set free before December 31st, 1800. His name is Jerry Smith. So if anyone that might have an ancestor that was enslaved by that name, then might be able to prove that as getting into First Families. So how do you apply for First Families? All right, the purpose of First Families is to honor our pioneer ancestors who were founding families of Western North Carolina area covered by Old Buncombe County. We want to identify and recognize the descendants of these families, and we want to promote research in the genealogical, cultural, and social history of the area. The application guidelines are available on our website. They're also in the handouts. There's a copy of the brochure. You can contact us by email at info@obcgs.com or call us at our number, and we will help you with any questions you might have. Now, I just want to highlight a couple of our proven ancestors. James Alexander was one of the early settlers of Buncombe County. They came to Buncombe between 1784 and 85. They joined with the Davidsons and the Pattons and other families, and they moved from Davidson Fort, which is now Old Fort, over the mountain and settled in the Bee Tree area of Swannanoa. They were family. The Davidsons and the Alexanders were enumerated in the 1790 census in Burt and in the 1800 census in Buncombe. Rachel, their daughter Rachel, married Moses White. They moved to the Rims Creek area and then to the Red Oak area of Buncombe County in North Buncombe. Now, the documentation used for this is very varied. We have a family Alexander Family Bible that was in James Alexander's pension application. So we were able to prove James's relationship to his daughter Rachel through the pension application. We were able to prove that James was here through not only the census, but his pension application had that proof. We used the state records. We used year's allotment for a widow that was in the court records. We used birth certificates, deeds, death certificates, and marriage records. These are some of the sources. Here is a copy of the family record. We used James's will. There were deeds from children to the mother for the settlement of the estate, and then birth and death certificates of several of the descendants. Another one of our ancestors is Canatoga, or Choate, or called Old Hop. And he was called Old Hop because he was lame in one leg. He was a respected keeper of the sacred fire. He was a principal chief in later years. He was born about 1690. He was the early speaker for the interest of the Cherokee people in 1740. Bill Jordan was an enrolled member of the Cherokee Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indian. He came into first families under Canatoga or Old Hop. He traces lineage from Granny Hopper, who was Old Hop's daughter, who married Alexander McDaniel. And he traces lineage from Catherine McDaniel to Nancy Jane Roper, Samuel Carson Lambert, Julia Frances Lambert to himself. And the sources that were used was his book, Spring Place, Moravian Mission and the Ward Family of the Cherokee Nation by M. White. We also used the 1883-1840 Hester rolls of the Cherokee Indians, 1850, 60, 70 census, Cherokee County, North Carolina, and the 19th census of Jackson County. And we also used birth certificates. So we want to welcome new FFOB members. We are still getting members every year. It grows, and we're so glad to see new ancestors. So these are our latest in 2023 and 2024. These are our latest first family members. So I want to encourage everyone to come and try to find your qualified ancestors. If you have an ancestor that has already been qualified, you can look at the documentation. It is under the First Family's documentation on the website. We also have it in the society. But if you are a descendant of an ancestor that's already been qualified, you can link your application to the application of someone that has already joined under that ancestor. All you have to do is prove yourself to where you link to that other application. And we will be glad to help anyone with that. Thank you all for listening.